Good day, everyone, and I hope they're safe and healthy. For you to be updated with the latest lecture videos of our course, kindly click the subscribe button. For this week's lesson, we're going to discuss about publishable research journal article writing. This is a very essential topic, most especially that if you're done with the research proposal, you will be finalizing your introduction, review of literature, and methodology. At the same time, we will be writing your results and discussion and conclusion. But before we proceed, I have a profound question, and that is, how do you write a publishable research journal article? We'll find the answers as we go along. So come and let's learn. The objectives of this lesson are: employ the conventions of writing a discipline-based publishable research article and pass the plagiarism evaluation. Let's begin with the first topic, and that is the publishable research article. And the question is, what are the qualities of a publishable research journal article? Let's take a look at the videos.
It should be fresh, well written, and has a good narrative.
If it is ethical, presents facts, and follows a format.
A publishable research article should be novel and provide adequate references that are published as academic research studies.
If it contributes new knowledge about a specific topic or fills the gap of overlooked timely issues.
A research article is more publishable if it offers something interesting new about something that is quite old.
To make a research publishable, it should contain new ideas or simply your research should have novelty.
The qualities we should find in a publishable article is that it must be true and updated on a certain study.
It should be rigorous. A research paper requires rigorousness to maintain its quality.
The qualities may include if the article is something new and it is verifiable.
A research article that can be published is a piece of writing that provides new knowledge to a current or previously published study.
When it is novel, study-worthy, and contains accurate and/or important details.
And these are the qualities of a publishable research journal article. The first one is it could be a component of a project or study, or it could also be a component of your thesis or dissertation. Next is brief because it's a shorter version of your study. Next is it's scholarly because it's scientific. Next is new findings because if you are writing a research journal article, you have to provide new contributions to the body of knowledge. The language and style is very relevant. In that case, you have to make use of complex, compound, and compound-complex sentences. Next is the research abstract. And the question is, how do you write a research abstract? Let's take a look at the videos.
Put all significant aspects, the overall purpose of the article, and the research problem and major findings.
Written in a fascinating manner and presents your major ideas.
A research abstract should clearly but briefly present your objectives, methodology, results, and conclusions.
Provide the whole context of your research paper in a concise and comprehensible manner with cohesive formatting.
The abstract must contain the summarized major aspects of the paper and should be in a sequenced manner.
Your research abstract should contain a summary of the major aspects of the entire paper.
The contents of your abstract paper must contain a background of your study, central questions and problems, the main reason, rationale, and the goals of your research.
By summarizing the major aspects of the overall purpose of the study and research problems.
Firstly, determine which type of abstract you should include in your paper and the purpose of the study and the research problems.
The abstract should succinctly report the goals and findings of your research so that readers fully understand what the paper is about.
Congest the important aspects of the paper together and write a summary about the study.
If you're going to write a research abstract, you may use Ken Hyland's framework or John Swales's framework. By the way, a research abstract is a summary of your study, and it contains 5 major parts, and these are your introduction, purpose or objectives, method, findings, and conclusions. In this particular case, I'm going to show you Ken Hyland's framework, though Ken Hyland and John Swales's framework are the same. The first one here is the introduction, wherein you're going to provide a brief background about your topic. and then followed by the purpose, wherein you're going to provide the objective. You may just write your general objective here. And then your methodology, wherein you're going to just highlight the salient details such as research design, sampling, data collection, and data analysis. Next is findings, wherein you're going to highlight the noteworthy results that you have found. And take note, these results should answer your objectives. And then your conclusions. I'm going to show you an example of a research abstract. This one contains the introduction, the purpose, the method, findings, and then the conclusion. Let's proceed to the next topic, and that is introduction. And the question is, how do you finalize your introduction? Let's take a look at the videos.
Check and review everything if you have a good argument.
End it off by mentioning your arguments and thesis statements.
The logical connection between the problem and some literature from global and local scenes should be cohesive all throughout your introduction.
Check if you are following the prescribed format and have someone perceive if your topic was well introduced.
After reading the introduction, the reader should know where the paper is going and what to expect from it, preferably containing the main arguments and conclusion.
To finalize your introduction, the thesis statement should be clearly stated at the end of it.
In finalizing your introduction, it must include good attention-catching qualities and a summary of your study.
By acting as the reader and ask yourself, why should I read this?
If the details of my research article is already sufficient and the contents are fixed.
Proofread, look for grammatical errors or misunderstandings of the data and ideas provided.
Make sure to scan and double-check the content if it has expounded a clear thought about the study.
In the previous lecture, I have presented John Swales's Create a Research Space. The first one here is establishing a territory wherein you're going to highlight the present situation. And for each subsection, provide 1 to 2 paragraphs. First one here is the problem of the world, the interventions of international organizations such as the United Nations, UNESCO, World Health Organization, and others. And then next is you have to contextualize the problem, and then the interventions of the Philippine government, like for instance from province to barangay level. And if you cannot find any interventions coming from the national or local government, you can provide the data of your needs assessment. Next is the topic background, and that depends on your topic. Next is related studies. Just highlight the author or authors, the year of publication, and their major findings. Next major section is establishing a niche. In establishing a niche, you have to stipulate the gap or the need why conduct this particular study. In this case, you have to provide the limitations of the previous studies. You can also provide the SDGs of the United Nations. Next is the gaps, wherein you can accentuate that studies are conducted abroad but not so much in the Philippines. And then the last major section is the occupying the niche, wherein you're going to highlight your solution. And your solution provides here your objectives, wherein you can stress your general and specific objectives, and then the arrangement of your article, which contains your review of literature, methodology, findings, and conclusions. But if you're writing an extended review of literature, you may delete the methodology. The next topic is review of literature, and the question is, how do you refine your review of literature? Let's take a look.
Remove constraints and broaden the scope of your subject.
Organize correlating data and proofread for any errors.
In refining your RRL, the variables listed in your research problem should be properly shown through statistics and supporting statements from credible sources.
In refining, indicate headings with related subtopics to effectively elaborate your review of literature.
It can be refined by making sure that it follows prescribed format by your instructor, and if it fully relates to the chosen topic.
Your review of related literature should provide a synopsis of what is known and not known in the topic, and how this fills the gap in the literature. Also, it should be adequate, up-to-date, and relevant to your research topic.
You must narrow down your topic, search for literature, choose the best articles that support your study and must be updated. Make your synthesis, and finally develop your purpose statement.
Understand and aim for what you need that would support your research paper.
Expand the topic by getting rid of the delimitation and use broader concepts.
Maintain the core focus by summarizing the contributions of the literature sources to the field of study you are searching.
Browse and add keywords or delimitations to specifically narrow the desired concept.
If you are writing an extended review of literature, do the following. The first one here is you have to trace the history of the topic from beginning to present, followed by the developments, which contain the progress, the trends, and the current state or the current knowledge of the topic. Next would be the challenges, which contain the different debates and issues related to your topic. And take note, your review of literature should be anchored on your objectives, a synthesis coming from different authors, and if there are recent developments, you can provide an argumentation. And take note, you have to pay attention to how scholars write their review of literature, and that is your model. Use headings so that readers would be able to keep track of the arrangement of your article. To make your paper scholarly, use proper in-text citation. Let's proceed to the next topic, and that is your research methodology. And the question is, how do you establish your research methodology? Let's take a look.
By knowing the way how to analyze and perform the topic of the article chosen.
Use a data gathering method that complements and answers your questions.
Establishing a research methodology should be in line with the functions that you have stated as your goals and your objectives.
State the appropriate approaches for your study and indicate the instruments and how they would aid in drawing the outcomes of your research.
It should be able to convince the readers why your research is useful and why it will contribute to your chosen field of study.
Your research methodology is designed to present the rationale of the approach you took in your studies, describes and justifies the methods that are used, reveals the boundaries of the research, and describes the tests taken to ensure ethical research practice.
It must explain your approach, describe your methods of data collection, and you must evaluate and justify your methodological choices.
Describe, explain, and state what, why, and how the research is conducted.
Describe and explain how the measurements were made and state which statistical tests were done to analyze the data.
Allows readers to assess the researcher's reliability and validity by explaining what you did and how you did it.
Be realistic and choose analytical methods that would fully aid your research and data gathering process.
If you're going to write a research article, the contents of your research methodology depends on the nature of your paper. And here are some of the major parts that you may include in your research methodology. Like, for instance, the context wherein you're going to describe the nature of your study, your research locale, and other pertinent details. Next, you have to describe your participants according to age, sex, educational background, languages spoken, and other details. Next, you have to provide how you collected your data so that others would also do the same thing. And then your research instruments. For instance, you're using a survey questionnaire or maybe an interview questionnaire or whatever. You have to provide them here. And then how you analyze your data is very relevant. And take note, some components of your methodology may be omitted or may be added. If you're writing an extended review of literature, the research methodology is not anymore included in the research article. Let's proceed to the next topic, and that is findings. And the question is, how do you compose your findings? Let's take a look at the videos.
Writing down and emphasizing the main observations, as well as providing a brief overview of the article's findings.
Organize, gather data, and present with clarity to avoid confusion.
The results and discussion should be arranged in the same way that you have arranged your specific objectives.
Include all the raw results, whether positive or negative, to prove the paper's accuracy and present data with visual figures to make an easier comparison between data.
It is easier to compose if both are seen separately, but still be able to show the research's results, the analysis, and its outcomes.
In this part, you should present the actual statement of the problem and then immediately present the findings of your study using the data and evidence from the previous chapter of your study.
Do not repeat your results. You can also state your conclusion first and must be consistent with the study objectives or research questions. It must explain how the results answer your questions under your study.
We can use tables and graphs to present the results for better comprehension.
by pointing out differences and relations and provide information about the findings.
The outcome should provide answers to the study questions. The order in which the results are presented is subjective. When presenting the findings for the major hypothesis, be clear, succinct, and straightforward.
By presenting the accurate analysis and data outcome of the study.
Your research depends on two major categories, and these are quantitative and qualitative. And I'm going to show you how both research designs are written. Let's begin with quantitative. You have to begin with an introductory paragraph which provides a brief background about the subsection that you are going to discuss. And you can provide 1 to 2 paragraphs here. Next, graphics. Your graphics may contain the tables or charts that you're going to provide. And there are universities wherein the graphics are provided after the introductory paragraph. And there are also some universities wherein their graphics are provided at the end of the discussion. If your graphics are too long, you can provide a simplified version and then provide the longer version in the appendices. Next is the explanation of the graphics that you have provided, but take note, do not repeat what has been presented in your graphics. What you have to do here is provide the meaning. Take note, provide the meaning of those graphics. Next would be connect your findings with your review of literature and then link them with your related studies, whether or not you have the same or different findings. Don't you worry if your findings are different, because that's possible. What you have to do is explain why is it that your findings are different from theirs. Next would be the implications. In that case, you have to formulate the implications based on the findings that you have gathered. It's the overall summary. If your study is qualitative, it's like you are telling a story, and this is the format. Here you have the introductory paragraph wherein you have to provide what is this all about, and then followed by the themes. The themes here are the general ideas of the different answers of your respondents, and these themes are connected by the different codes. You have to provide lines to corroborate the findings of your study, and then connect your findings with your review of literature, and then link your findings with your related studies. As I mentioned earlier, if your findings are different, that's fine. What you have to do is explain why is it that your findings are different. It's like you are telling a story if your study is qualitative. Next is conclusion. And the question is, how do you nail your conclusions? Let's take a look at the videos.
Connect all of the study's important points and relate them to the results and the article's topic.
Restating your arguments, which are backed up by your data.
You need to conclude based only on what is found, and it should be in line with the interpretation that you have based on your instruments.
Hit the closure of your paper by concisely reiterating the summary together with straightforward findings.
It should be the best opportunity to make a good final impression on your readers, and for your research to end on a positive note.
To come up with an awesome conclusion in your research study, always make sure that you restate your thesis. Next is summarize the main point, and finally, draw a concluding closing statement.
You must avoid ending with a rephrased thesis statement that contains no substantive changes. Your conclusion must include a brief summary of the paper's main points, provide results or consequences, and you can also end it with a warning.
Give concrete reasons to prove that the research paper has a purpose and is meaningful.
A meaningful conclusion and proceeding in a straight course of the research.
The objective is to restate the thesis statements, summarize the body of the article, and leave a lasting impression on readers.
Synthesize the study and bring up key points that would prove that your study is worthy and full of purpose.
If you're going to write a conclusion, you have to follow the format. The first one here is you have to recast your problem. You also have to provide the summary of your findings, your conclusions, what you have accomplished, what are the limitations of your study, suggest possible research undertakings, and the implications of the findings of your study, like for instance, for policy, for instruction, and other details. And then in the acknowledgement section, you have to thank those significant individuals who help you accomplish your paper. If you have a funding agency, you have to thank them here also. And then your references should follow APA 2019. Let's proceed to the next topic, and that is, what should you do after completing your publishable research journal article? Let's take a look.
Ask for your professor or other professionals that can help you finalize and perfect the article.
One may try to publish it to a credible publisher.
Completing your journal means that you need to have it peer-reviewed for more suggestions and revisions from your co-scholars.
Ask an advisor or a professional for opinions to ensure that your research journal article is indeed worthy of being published.
If it is still to be published, it would be advised to recheck and further perfect the entire content of the article.
Carefully assess and review your research journal article after completing.
Your research journal article must fit into the journal's aims and scope. It must contain qualities and how innovative and significant is your study.
Well, basically, I would try to publish it to help others who would try to study a similar topic to my research.
A recommendation regarding the article's suitability for publication.
It's a good idea to seek mentorship or consult with an advisor to see if it fits the journal's scope and standards so we can hone the presentation to get the best chance of getting it published.
Take time in refining and make sure to consult experts about your study.
After completing your research journal article, you have to do the following. The first one is you have to proofread, so you may use Grammarly here. Next is the style and format, because if you are not following the style and format of the research publisher that you have chosen, they will not publish your paper. Then next is journal publishers, and the question is, how should you select reputable research journal publishers? Let's take a look.
Read the journal publisher statements on their publishing standards and know the transparency in the peer review process in the criterion for journal quality.
You may review their previous articles and publishes.
Selecting a reputable publisher is a personal choice. However, it should be based on the number of successful and relevant journals it has published over the years.
Choose trustworthy journal publishers with ethical standards and make sure your study matches the target scope of these publishers.
Ideally, it is better to choose the most available publisher than the best, as finding one will take time and are more likely to turn down your article.
You should carefully select them in terms of credibility.
In choosing a good publisher, it is up to you to determine if a publisher is a good publisher. It is also important to remember that the quality of a publisher or a journal can go up or down depending on many factors.
By making a list of journals with a suitable impact factor, and make sure the aims or scope of the journal matches that of your study.
To ensure the aims and scope of the journal is related, and survey the type of articles published in your research journals.
Should consider the prestige of the authors that publish in the journal and whether your research is of a similar level, and check the frequency of the publication.
Research in the publisher's background and make sure to choose a reputable publisher which can sync in your field of study.
Take note, before submitting your paper, you have to scout possible publishers who will be interested to publish your paper. For instance, you can publish your articles in Elsevier, Routledge, Taylor & Francis, Wiley, Springer. Take note of predatory journals and mediocre journals because they do not have any impact at all. Let's proceed to the last topic, and that is after publication. And the question is, what should you do after publishing your research journal article? Let's take a look at the videos.
Promote my article so that everyone is aware of it or knows about it.
Check from time to time. It is also a good idea if the article is perpetual.
After publishing your journal article, you can now share and track the progress of your research and how many people cited your work.
Promote your paper on different platforms to attract your target audiences to use your work as their reference.
The next big part would be to promote your article with the hopes that people will read, cite, and benefit from your research.
You should proofread and revise again after you publish your research journal article.
If the editor is satisfied that there are no serious problems with the manuscript, they will forward an anonymized version of your paper to 2 or 3 qualified peer reviewers who are invited to weigh in on its publication potential.
I would wait for recommendations, revisions, and or acceptance of my published research journal and go for the next step.
Reread, share, and make sure you own your journal article.
Sharing and promoting the article, this encourages the exchange of scientific information in the field and allows paper to contribute to broader scientific progress.
Revise, reread, and share your published journal in any platforms that can be promoted and be accessed by others.
Citation is very significant in the world of scholars. The first step that you have to do is create a Google Scholar account using your institutional email address and then sync your published articles. You may also sign up a ResearchGate account and then upload your published research journal articles so that more researchers would be able to cite your paper. You may present your paper in international conferences organized by reputable organizations, as much as possible, world-renowned universities around the world. Publishing a research journal article is both taxing and challenging, and there's a huge possibility that your paper will be rejected. And that is fine, because that's normal in the world of scholars. What you have to do is look for a mentor who will help you improve your paper, and look for other journal publishers who are more than willing to publish your paper. If you got questions regarding this lesson, or you got queries of any concern, drop an email at f.rene.bonifacio@cmu.edu.ph. I'll attend to your queries as fast as I can. And as always, God bless and stay healthy.